The Locked On Podcast Network presents the College Sports Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in college sports. From our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The College Sports Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in college sports.
Jake Diebel just pulled off a surprise on the recruiting trail.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Jake Diebler has wasted no time filling in the holes in the Buckeyes roster and making the basketball team a lot better. From getting guys that were on the team last year to stay, to keep those leaders there, as well as adding a guy 7-footer from Santa Clara via the transfer portal. I like what Diebler has done. But also he does some things at times that are surprising and are unexpected, like adding Myles Herro to the Buckeyes 2025 recruiting class. And yes, when you hear that name Herro, it is spelled with 2 R's because he is the brother of Tyler Herro. And I know when some people hear that name, they may be thinking, man, I don't want no Herro on the Buckeyes team. Well, Myles Herro can play, just like his brother can play. And I think that he is going to be one of those guys that will make an impact on the team in a few years from now, which is what you want. You aren't going to be a team or anybody in college basketball that's going to bring in a guy, and you can't expect everyone to play in year one. You can't. Because if you do that, you're going to be disappointed, or that player is going to be disappointed when the playing time is not what you told him it was going to be. For Myles Herro, he knows coming in he is going to be a developmental guy. But also, this recruiting class was a little incomplete because you look at just the incoming freshmen that are at Ohio State. The Buckeyes did sign 4-star forward Amari Bynum to join the 25 cycle. But then they also had Dorian Jones, who signed to play with Ohio State, but he pushed back his collegiate enrollment due to some academic eligibility issues. And so when you know that Dorian Jones, who's a guard, isn't coming to Ohio State right now to do some things away from the basketball court, you kind of got to figure out who you can quickly get to fill that void. And Myles Herro is that guy. Now, I do like some things, actually quite a bit of the things that Myles Herro does. As a senior at Whitnall High School there in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, averaged 21.5 points a game, 5.9 rebounds, and 4.7 assists, standing at 6'3", about 175 pounds. If you're going to look him up on the recruiting sites to see what a star ranking is, you may not see the composite ranking at 247 Sports because he doesn't have one. Now, 247 Sports, just regular rankings, ranks him as the 40th best point guard in the country and the 10th best player in the state of Wisconsin. And if you're in the top 10 in any state, in any sport, you're doing something good. And I think the one thing I like about Myles Herro the best, he is a playmaker. He has some creative ball handling skills, and he can create for his teammates. Like, he does a lot of those things very, very well. But I love the 6'3" factor. Yeah, you can look at the 175. Maybe he's about 165. He is a skinny kid. That's one thing that I saw very quickly when I watched him play is his frame is very thin, so you know he's probably going to come in, be at least 185. You would assume he's going to gain that much weight when he gets to the basketball program to really start his collegiate career. But his playmaking ability, he has a jump shot. I mean, he is a good player, a very good player in high school. It's going to take him some time to get up to speed with college basketball, which is okay. I mean, honestly, that should be expected. I mean, like I said earlier, you're not going to want to lie to players and say, oh, you're going to come in and play right away, because for most guys, that's not realistic. And if you think he's going to and something happens on campus and he doesn't, you look like a fool because your evaluation was a little off, or you just promised something you couldn't deliver. I think Myles Herro is going to be a decent player in 2 to 3 years. Don't expect anything in 2025, 2026 season. don't do that. If you do, or if he has to play a lot, that might mean the Buckeyes basketball team isn't as good as they should be. Additions have gotten me excited about Buckeye basketball. I'm not going to lie to you, man. There were times last season that it was kind of tough watching them play. The style they're playing, the lack of consistent play, the up and down games that you saw for this team, it was not the best brand of basketball to watch. And I hope, I also expect it because my expectations of Buckeye basketball are for them to compete with the other top teams in the conference, which will also allow them to compete with the other top teams in the country. I also think you should make the NCAA tournament, be competitive, and be a team that should be in the Sweet 16 / Elite 8 every single year. I understand Final Fours yearly isn't realistic, but you shouldn't be a team that is not in consideration to make the Final Four, even in the offseason conversations for as long as the Buckeyes have been in those things. I think this roster in this team next year is going to be a really, really good team. I think about just the offseason additions, not just the incoming freshmen and Amari Bynum and Miles Herro. Looking forward to getting Dorian Jones on campus down the road, a guy from Richmond Heights there in Cleveland. But also, there's been a lot of other guys that Diebler's realized, hey, I got to get some size, I got to get some strength, I got to get some speed, got to get some shooters. He's done a great job. Gabe Cupps, the Indiana transfer, Christoph Tilley, the one that I'm most excited about, 7-footer from Santa Clara, Brandon Noel from Wright State, and then also Joshua Ojanua from Baylor. I knew I was going to butcher his last name. Say at 6'10", 230 pounds. He just needs to stay healthy. If he is able to stay healthy and get his feet under him, he possesses the size that you need down low, especially in the Big Ten, which is one of my biggest complaints with not just Diebler's boys, but also Holtman's boys, that you're bringing in guys that don't fit every role in the team. You got a shooter in John Mobley Jr. You got a really good point guard in Bruce Thornton. You got Devin Royal, who could do some things at 6'8", about 230. I have not seen a big man at Ohio State, a true big man, in quite a long time. I have seen tall man. I ain't seen big man. I think Felix Okpara at times, not at Ohio State anymore, was big man, but he was more tall man. Zed Key, before he shed the LBs, he was a little bit of a big man, more of your traditional sense. But when he shed those pounds, he lost a lot of the stuff that made him a force on the basketball court. And I get like wanting to be healthier and be lighter and move up and down the court a little bit better. Like I understand all of that, which I'm not knocking it. I just think for the role in the basketball court, it wasn't the best. A center, a guy, a different sport actually, in football with Jeff Saturday. I recently saw a picture of just Jeff Saturday, former center for the Indianapolis Colts, that was also Peyton Manning center for most of Peyton Manning's career, where Jeff Saturday, as a football player, doesn't look like the guy he is right now. Same person, he's just a lighter version of himself. Now, think about if Jeff Saturday, as a center in the NFL, was playing with his current body and makeup and his weight when he was trying to lead the Colts offensive line in the Peyton Manning days as a center. It wouldn't work. Many of you have seen Jeff Saturday when he was on ESPN quite a bit. You would see like he was a slimmer person, looked really good, looked healthy. You couldn't do that in the NFL at center. You couldn't do that at all. And so for Zed Key, I get it. I think shedding the pounds really, really limited his productivity at his position before he transferred out of Ohio State. I like what Jake Diebler has done. I do think his all-season additions have been great, and it makes me excited about what the Buckeyes might be next year. Thank you all for tapping into this bonus episode of Locked on Buckeyes, making this show a part of your day. Make sure you check out today's daily pod where we talked about C.J. Hicks, Jason Moore, and Josh Padilla, and some things they must do this year to be productive Buckeyes in the fall. Yes, a show you don't want to miss. You also don't want to miss the portal with my guy, Brian Smith, who is keeping you up to date with the changes in college football, the NIL, the recruiting, the transfer portal, he as a man is going to be covering it all. So you can find the portal and Locked On Buckeyes on the YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow me on any social media platform at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. Let's have some Locked On Buckeyes right here on a Tuesday. We'll see you next time.
Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year.
Michigan State. Yep, that's right. They flipped a kid from Iowa State.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It's recruiting season here at Michigan State, and for the second day in a row, our Spartans got a defensive commit for the 2026 football recruiting class. So it was Braylon Hodge yesterday, linebacker out of Colorado, and today, Brayden Thomas. There's a lot of smoke around, hey, this kid is visiting over the weekend. He's an Iowa State commit right now. And we talked with Greg Smith of Rivals at the end of last week. We said, who are we on commit watch for? Well, this is exactly who he was talking about. Brayden Thomas, he makes it official on this blessed Monday. The 6-foot, 180-pound safety, he flips from the Cyclones to Michigan State. Now, again, guys, he was committed to Iowa State since early February, but hey, you know what? Once you visit East Lansing, tough to turn down these greener pastures. Now, 3-star safety out of St. Edwards in Ohio, so quick shout out to the Dowell family. I know that they were a big family down at St. Edwards, but more about Brayden Thomas here, guys. He's the number 71 ranked safety according to 24/7 Sports, and the number 32 overall kid in the football-rich state of Ohio. Now, per Spartans Illustrated of the Rivals Network, they have him starting off as strong safety when he does come onto campus in 2026, but they also mentioned, hey, this kid is pretty versatile in the backfield. He could play free safety. He could play a little bit of nickel, and we've seen that too with Michigan State's portal strategy as well, right? Getting Tracy Revels, a guy that could play a little bit of box, a little bit of free, a little bit of slot safety if you need him to. So this is the kind of player that really fits the Michigan State mold. A guy that could do a little bit of everything in the backfield, and hey, we'll just figure out the rest when you come onto campus. So, like I said, guys, Brayden Thomas, the second defensive commit in a row, and those kids are the only 2 defensive commits in this class right now. That is now up to 6 kids, ranked number 51 overall in the nation, so still plenty of work to be done to rise up those team rankings as far as the recruiting world goes. But hey, not a bad weekend for Michigan State. Now, we talked a little bit about this yesterday too. It's not just weekends anymore that are big at Michigan State in the month of June. No, it's weekdays now, because there are some big visitors on campus right now as you are listening to this, assuming you're listening on a Monday or a Tuesday. But yeah, guys, there are 2 4-stars I just want to talk about right now that would be some massive, massive needle movers for Michigan State should they get them. And we're going to start right now with Carter Gooden. 6'4", 260-pound defensive end. And there's some say that, he could bulk up a little more in college, play interior defensive line, be more of this versatile frontline player. But all things considered, Michigan State would probably have him play at the defensive end. Hopefully this is a problem that Michigan State can figure out later, because this kid, he's talented, right? Like, he's not just a 4-star. Oh, no. 24/7 Sports, they have him ranked number 69 in the class, so squarely inside the top 100, definitely on the higher echelon of these 4-star kids. Now, of course, when a kid's rated that high, it's never going to be that easy of a recruiting battle here. Even though Michigan State was one of the first schools to identify him and offer him way back last Halloween. He was Michigan State was this kid's 3rd Power 4 offer. And yeah, obviously he's still considering Michigan State, but plenty of work to be done here. He visited Rutgers last weekend. He's already visited Arizona State. He visited UCLA in the month of May. Like we said, he's on Michigan State's campus right now, but he's still got 4 more visits locked in after this one. We're talking Virginia, we're talking Syracuse, we're talking UNC, and we are talking Boston College here, guys. So yeah, that's going to be, let's see if I can do some quick math here. What about, that's 8 official visits that this young man will have taken between the months of May and into late June. That is using your time to the fullest right there, Mr. Gooden. So good on you. So look, what kind of a statement would this be for Michigan State should they get the commitment of Carter Gooden? Oh, man, outside of getting like a really good player, that's the obvious one. But this would be a real good statement win here for Michigan State on the recruiting trail. A recruiting trail that hasn't seen a lot of big wins. We've been very vocal about that on this show, is that I don't know how this class gets into the top 30 with the lack of 4-star visitors that you're having on campus. And by the way, those kids aren't even guaranteed to commit here. So if you get Carter Gooden, hey, that's going to ring loud on the recruiting trails, right? And not just because you get this 4-star kid, but who else you have beaten out. This kid grew up in Canada, now lives in Massachusetts. Let's just go down the list of official visits one more time, because there is a common thread here once you push out Arizona State and UCLA. It's Rutgers, Virginia, Syracuse, North Carolina, Boston College. Those are all teams that are on the East Coast. That would be impressive, not just to get the kid, but to branch out outside of your region and have him from a lot of programs that have also been in on him early, like Michigan State was, but also picking them out of their own backyards here. So this is something that Justin Thinn mentioned in his piece on 24/7 Sports that I also want to repeat too. But like we said, this kid's a top 70 recruit. This would be the highest rated recruit since Devontae Dobbs in 2019. So it's not just all that, but who you stack him with. We said that he's a defensive end. Can you play a little bit of interior? Yeah, perhaps one day, but this would be an impressive stacking of classes here. And that's not to say Michigan State got, any highly rated defensive ends in last year's class. Actually, if you look at it, there's not really a defensive end in that class, but who they did get, highly rated 4-star kid out of Frankenmuth, Derek Simmons. You pair Derek Simmons, 2025 kid, next to Carter Gooden, 2026. Hey, we know how important trenches are in the sport of football here in East Lansing. I would say that'd be an okay back-to-back pickups here on the defensive line here. So it'd plug a massive hole. Guys, we've talked about it all offseason. We talked about it during the season last year. But yeah, we learned last year how important the position of defensive end can be in college football. If you didn't know it going into last year, going 6 or 7 games, however long it was without a sack, yeah, that's probably a pretty good lesson here. So this is a big prospect at a big position of need here, and let's see if they could just shut the door on this one. Now, what's nice about this, not the only 4-star guy on the defensive line visiting campus right now. We also got Tyson Harley, 6'4", 215-pound edge rusher from Washington, D.C. He's a top 400 player, guys. So not in the top 100, but certainly no one you're going to say no to. This would be a pretty big win here for Michigan State. Now, just like Gooden, Tyson Harley actually visited Rutgers last weekend. He was on campus the same time as Gooden was. Now, he will visit Penn State, so that's going to be a tough battle right there in its own right. And then also Maryland, who they always have these like random amazing pickups on the recruiting trail. So I mean, that could be a battle that, no one sees coming. And also Virginia Tech. So similar to Gooden, this would be Michigan State branching out of their own region and taking a really strong commit out of someone else's backyard. So that would also be a statement that would ring loud. So guys, if you listen to the show every day, we've had this conversation. The long-term outlook of the 2026 class, starting to get a little concerned, like I alluded to earlier, that will this class even finish in the top 30 because, well, they don't have a lot of 4-star visitors on campus. Eddie Whiting was one last weekend. Okay, he's already committed to the class. Carter Gooden's one, and then, yes, Tyson Harley. But after that, not a ton. So this is the biggest week stretch here for Michigan State recruiting in the month of June. Can other 4-stars be added later on in the month? Yes, obviously, like even Tyson Harley, this was a pretty late addition to the schedule. So there are instances where that happens. But you got to turn these visits into commits. If you can get one, or dare I say both of these kids, that would change the tune of how the 2026 class is filling out so far right now.
The NBA Finals are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite teams or diving into player props, from three-pointers to steals to assists. There's so many ways to bet my favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, I can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. You could place that first $5 bet on Game 1 of the NBA Finals. The Thunder are favored by 9 at home against the Pacers. I would take a adjusted line and get it to like 15 just to get better odds, because I think they could blow the doors off the Pacers in Game 1. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ven-Allen Lubin, the UNC transfer forward, has now officially committed to NC State, Will Wade, and the Wolfpack. We talked about last week on how this has been brewing here for a couple weeks now. This addition is so incredibly valuable to our front court depth, the number one most important piece of that puzzle. But to get this finalized now, Kenton, we do believe that this is the last piece to the official year one roster for Will Wade. Big time get, and the cherry on top, his feet are now clean.
Well, you know, Grayson, I'm very excited here, and I was so excited I had to call up some sources to get some quotes here. So I'm gonna read a quote. I'm gonna read a quote from an anonymous source here, and we'll go forward how I'm feeling. And I quote, ha, 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 ha. 4 years straight, we retired one over the hill, William. Now, I'm sorry, wrong quote. Here we go. Here's the correct quote. Them superpowers getting neutralized. I can only watch in silence. The famous brand that we once knew is looking paranoid and now spiraling. Their movements is like some degenerates. Every antic is feeling distasteful. I calculate they're not as calculated. We can even predict their angle. Fabricating stories on Ven-Allen Lubin front, because Will Wade's got him now. His feet are now clean, and he may win a championship. Wow. That
Poetry.
is, yeah, it's really, you know, it's inspiring people to wax poetic, what Will Wade and Andrew Slater are doing here. What a time. What a time to be a member of the pack. What a time to be running with the pack. I'm going to tell you something. A lot of people, you know, we talked about, hey, would you want Ven-Allen Lubin, or would you take PJ Haggerty and Darren Williams, all that type of stuff in the past? But when you talk about what was brass tacks and when it was coming down the stretch, would you like Ven-Allen Lubin to be on this team? Absolutely. And that's just on the surface level. Upon doing a little bit of deeper digging, upon doing just a slight bit of research, you find out that he was one of the most effective players on the Dirty Foot Club last year. One of the highest plus minuses, one of the highest offensive and defensive ratings last year. It's not hard to see why there are so many fans with unclean feet who are coping right now. It is not hard to understand that, because this young man was a baller for them last year. And you and I talked about this in terms of if Paul Mbia has whatever situations going on with eligibility, he could be big time. But even if he doesn't, this is still a player that has played more college basketball than virtually the rest of our true post big men combined in terms of NCAA basketball, right? You got Mikey Wilkins, a young guy, true freshman, hasn't played much. You got Colt Langdon, he's a redshirt freshman, hasn't played much. You've got a bunch of guys who, obviously Paul Mbia, who's played a lot professionally overseas, but how many seconds has he played of NCAA basketball, right? None. So you look at those situations and you say, well, what do we have in terms of proven experience product? Now you have that. Now you have a guy that you know at least knows what this game is about, at least knows what it looks like and how things should function in terms of Ven-Allen Lubin. So all in all, I would say great get for the pack. And again, I get why you're coping. You know, I understand it. I completely understand why so many fans over in Dirty Footland are so upset here.
This was the acquisition that NC State had to make happen because of exactly what Kenton was just talking about. His experience with 3 prior years of P5 ball. You can't fabricate that in another way at this point of the offseason because you have Paul Mbia, who doesn't have college basketball experience. Same with Zamika Wilkins, freshman. Colt Langdon was at Butler but never played. So Jerry Dang from Florida State is really the closest other piece you have in the front court. Could you project him to be a starter? I guess we'll see. So that's why you had to get Ven-Allen Lubin or a player like him. But like I just said, there's really nothing else like him that is left. So this is a piece that NC State, Will Wade had to go out and get, and it is truly phenomenal that they are able to get it done. Kenton kind of poked at the copium. I'll go ahead and do some prodding. It was exactly what you expected to see. When he had first tweeted, his initial plan, UNC fans, I'm entering the portal. Don't be alarmed. My plan is to return to UNC, blah, 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 blah. We come to find out later on that UNC effectively closed the door behind him, and then he was left in the portal. NC State got involved very shortly thereafter. And that's kind of where you started to see the tone shift. Like, right. Oh, NC State's involved with him? Nah, he was trash. We don't need him anyway. We've already backfilled him. He was useless to us. I mean, you could have set your watch to reactions like this. The way they have done mental gymnastics to cope with the fact that they closed the door on a player that could have done them some good next year, but instead he's going to continue his development right down the street under the reckoning. This is delicious. And this is the first time we've seen a player go directly from one to the other. Dontrez Styles kind of counts, but he went to Georgetown in the middle, so not quite the same. Right. I quote tweeted with the scene from I Think You Should Leave. Give me that. Will Wade said, oh, Ven-Allen Lubin in the portal? Y'all don't want him anymore? Give me that. I'm going to eat the whole burger. Yes, we will eat the whole burger. We will gladly pick off of your plate, and we will shore up exactly what we need to put a finalized stamp on this year one roster. So you will watch them cope for probably the entire summer. They're going to say that he stinks. They're going to say that he wasn't a good player for them. Blatantly not true. He was literally the best player for them down the stretch in the back half of their season. Go look at the numbers. Numbers don't lie. He was probably the most effective player for the Dirty Foot Club the entire last third of the season. They were all excited. You can go find the tweets. They're still all up. I looked. You can go find the tweets about how excited they were for him to continue his development next year. Instead, he's going to be doing it over here in the red and white. W's in the chat.
It's the only difference between the I Think You Should Leave in this is Andrew Slater is not going to be saying, are you going to tell him I housed your entire player? He's not going to be doing that. Okay? Andrew Slater is very proud of himself. And I'll tell you what, this is great excitement for offseason number one. And mind you, partial offseason. You come into the ball game already behind the 8 ball because in a perfect world, nobody tampers, nobody talks to players before the transfer portal is open and all that good stuff. But also the transfer portal was open before Will Wade had officially announced that he was coming to NC State. So before this union was even announced, we're already behind the 8 ball here. And Will Wade goes out and does this on a show calls behind the 8 ball. I'm telling you right now, again, my good confidential source gave me those quotes, but I am telling you right now, expect more in the future because this is what should be expected. This is Will Wade is resetting the standard. He's resetting the standard. He's shifting what we should be expecting here, and I'm here for it. I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see us getting guys that we really want. I'm excited to see us getting guys that are big time. And at the end of the day, more important than anything, more important than sticking one to the Dirty Foot Club and all that, because don't get me wrong, I do not like those guys. I really, really do not like those guys. But you know what I love even more than watching those losers lose? Winning. Ven-Allen Lubin will positively impact winning, not just against the Dirty Foot Club, but every single game in and game out. The way that he finished last season, if he can pick up on that momentum and carry it into Raleigh, boy, we'll again from my same friend who gave me that anonymous quote, we'll be smoking on some top 5s tonight.
We already had Wade Avenue, but perhaps now instead of Dan Allen Drive, we have Dan-Allen Lubin Drive. Ven-Allen Lubin commits to NC State, which is ideally the last and final piece to the year one roster for Will Wade. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the reckoning commences.